the left just attempted murder of him and his family today. That's what the swatting is. They've done it to MTG like 15 times or something. They've done it to me a bunch, but the cops know, and so they don't even respond anymore. The first 3 times they came and saw me, later they're like, yeah, they're still doing it. Saw it, the gas station like 3 years ago, then again a year ago. They'll see me getting gas in the neighborhood. That's where they get gas, the same place. I live right on the edge of the city, so it's Travis County. And so we've been swatted more than 10 times. But the police, again, know who I am. They don't know Chase, but I guess they're fans when he got there. Chase, you just got swatted today.
Yeah, so what happened was I got a phone call about an hour and a half ago, maybe 2 hours ago. I kind of lost track of time. It's been a whirlwind from a deputy. And, is this Chase Geiser? And I said, yes. And as soon as he said he was a police officer, I thought that he was going to ask me some questions about Jamie, because we did the Sunday night show.
Because our main writer just got murdered.
Yeah, our main writer just got murdered. And
he was on the Ukrainian hit list.
And I had texted Jamie a lot on Sundays, as I usually do, about headlines and stuff like that. So I thought, maybe they're just asking questions about what I knew about what he was doing on Sunday. And they're like, no, we're outside your house with your neighbor, and we've been trying to get in because there was a call that somebody broke into your house and killed your dog, and that you and your family were hiding in your basement. Now in Texas, we don't have basements, so that was the first red flag. And so the first thing I did was make sure that my wife and kids weren't home. They actually weren't. They were getting groceries, and I just rushed back home, talked to the cops. There were, I don't know, half a dozen cop cars outside of my house. And they said that they have been receiving a litany of SWAT requests for my property via 311 via text. Now, these people are refusing to answer the phone or speak. They say that they can only text. And they said that as I was talking to the police in my own driveway 15 or 20 minutes after the initial call, they said that they were still getting 311 messages about my house. So there was a campaign swatting my property today, Alex.
And imagine what they're doing to Musk and to Joe Rogan. And if they think, because I learned about this a few weeks ago when Musk was here in town, I'll leave it at that. Imagine what they're doing to them.
Yes.
So this is the terrorism campaign, as I told you, ratcheting up.
Absolutely.
And to show what a small world it is now, this touches me, because I always care about you as well. My middle daughter does babysitting for you. She's over there sometimes. So that's what's going on here.
Yeah.
Where my kids are. This is the evil of these people. And they're a bunch of cowardly scum, Chase. Let me guess, this isn't going to intimidate you.
No. I mean,
is it going to make you fight harder?
Absolutely, 100%. And what I think it's related to specifically is there's been a lot of talk about this Ukrainian enemies of the state list. Jamie was on it. Alex, you're on it. I'm also on it. I reposted earlier today that I was on it. And I think a lot of the Ukrainian supporters, I don't know if it's from Ukraine or not, it could just be leftists here in the United States, are using that list to weaponize swatting.
Of course they are.
So, yeah, that's what happened. That's what happened in my house today. Sorry I had to leave the office, Alex.
And then imagine the police have already had their funding massively cut. They've got all this real stuff to deal with. And then they're constantly running around to the swatting events.
Absolutely. And I will say that the police were big InfoWars fans, big fans of the Hodge twins specifically, they said. And as soon as I walked up, they're like, oh, this makes sense. They just like recognize this because a lot of the guys in blue, they
still asked you a walkthrough just like it just guaranteed.
No, I didn't. They didn't ask to go in my house, and I didn't offer.
Well, they even knew it was pure bull.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 times they said, look, we know you're, because I was never there, and they said I was killing my wife the first 2 times. And then she wasn't even there, like playing tennis or something. Middle of the day, I got to rush home. They're like, okay, well, we need to still go look.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sure. And they go around, okay. And of course, we don't really have basements in Texas either. You don't have a basement in your house.
Right. But that, and the reason they call and they say that someone
I think it sounds like Ukrainians. Look, they're doing it themselves. It's NATO, buddy.
Yeah, 100%. And I've been, very adamantly opposed to this war ever since the beginning, as of you, Alex. And
well, I showed all Jamie's articles they put on the hit list. It was all true. It's all come out to be true.
100%. They gave $63 billion to Ukraine on Hitler's birthday last year, while our Congress waved Ukrainian flags, April 20th. Yeah, I mean, come on.
And they give a standing ovation to a real Nazi in Canadian Parliament.
I know.
How do people follow you on X?
Just follow me at Real Chase Geiser, but most important thing you can do is follow at Real Alex Jones and go to thealexjonestore.com.
All right, we got Jay Dyer coming in, your calls and more. Stay with us. The Info War rolls on. Share the live feed of Real Alex Jones now. Now, do it. The bullies hope you won't. Take action. And their spokesperson says to be attacked. Elon Musk is, Jamie White is. He's murdered Sunday night, God rest his soul. And Chase Geiser just got swatted, that there were basically people held kidnapped and hostage at his house. And he got there. Of course, nobody's there. The police are listeners. and more swatting was coming in while he was there. They're burning down all these Tesla dealerships. They're attacking everything. They're trying to crash the stock market right now. And they said they're going to escalate into the summer if Trump won, with civil unrest, forcing Trump to put military on the streets. Then they're going to try to have blue states say that he's a dictator, use that as the political cover to secede, and we're officially in a civil war. We knew they were saying they'd do it. They said in August of 2020 that if Trump won, they were going to do that plan then. Then they said in October and November of last year, if Trump won, that was the plan. This is the plan. People said, well, they're not going to try it now. They are, Jay. Jay Dyer of Jay's Analysis is here with us.
Yeah, this reminds me of, I think, 15 years ago, InfoWars covered those leaked documents that dealt with Army preparations for civil war. You've been talking about the preparations for civil war for ever since I've been listening, I can recall. That's an old strategy that empires use to divide countries, divide nations in order to control them. It's the old Roman strategy. They did it with Ireland, Northern, Southern Ireland. They've done it with countless countries, North, South Korea.
I have a pet peeve. I have to take a picture of pics. I have to do it. I just can't look at it like that. It's a problem I have. I just have gotten very OCD over the years. There you go.
Thank you. You're a gentleman. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is it goes back to Jacobins, the same thing. All of these strategies that they're rolling out now to try to collapse this country, it's the exact same game plan. That's a strategy. It's a technology that they used in the French Revolution. The Jacobins, the Girondins, they try to split the country. That they were open.
They're the proto-communists, and that's mainline history.
Yeah, they split. They open up the prisons. They bring out the worst of the population from the Bastille and these different prison systems in the French Revolution. Let them run wild. Let them have free reign. And then if they get arrested, they got to go free. It's the exact same situation that we see right now, especially even here in Austin.
It's a license to kill.
Exactly. And they also allow, in a kind of kakistocracy, the worst people to get into power, people that are sexually compromised, people that are complete degenerates. They're put in power on purpose to help facilitate the collapse of the country. You've talked about Cloward and Piven a million times. That's exactly what the same model, but with economics.
And they have them loot all the stabilizers and intelligentsia, just like Pol Pot killing anybody that had glasses.
Yeah. I just read a book on the color revolutions and the strategies that they used with the CIA in Panama, in Belarusia, and in Serbia, and how they collapsed those countries with the same strategy and techniques in 98, 99, 2000, 2001. And the very CIA guys who went from Panama with the collapse of that country in 1989, the same guys flew over and used the same technology to collapse the Eastern Bloc countries at the end of the Cold War. And it's the same techniques that they're doing inside America domestically. Once you see that pattern, it's right there.
And Soros brags about with the CIA overthrowing the Eastern European countries and all that, and they just did it again in Romania. And so they're doing that here.
Yes.
That's their plan to stop us. And I think Trump needs to address it point blank.
Yeah, there was that clip. In fact, you talked about it this week. You said Soros has talked about it millions of times, or you played the clip millions of times. There's the clip where he says that, yes, we will make Soviet empire, Soros empire,
That's right. There's clip after clip. You want to play it again?
Yeah, it's clip number one.
All right, here's, I mean, he also, yes, I overthrew Ukraine with State Department, and it's, yes, we're going to break up Russia now. And then, of course, you've got the deputy head of the unelected EU Commission 3 weeks ago saying, oh, we're going to beat Russia, and then we're going to break it up in 5 pieces.
Yeah, micronations.
And they're like, oh, we're all peaceful. We don't know why Putin's upset.
Micronation splitting north-south, either way.
Here, go ahead and roll the clip of Soros.
No, my first one was in South Africa, but afterwards, Eastern Europe, when the Soviet Union, the Soviet Empire collapsed, and as the empire collapsed, I moved in and picked up the pieces. First in Hungary in 1984, and then Poland in 87, China in 87 as well. So this is how the Soros Empire was replacing the Soviet Empire. That then you had a moribund Soviet Union, and you had an emerging
That's good.
European Union. It was the height of the European Union, the integration.
And now if you don't want to be under the globalists, the integration, which is a 1947 deal, the real Treaty of Rome, 56, unelected commission, getting countries by increment to give up their sovereignty, to now, we don't like your election, we cancel it, we're unelected, we'll stage coups. It's now out in the open, which is a big victory that we forced it out in the open. People that see this go, oh my God, they're doing this. No, we forced it out in the open. It's painful, but this is the beginning of the end. And now, how would you describe the changing global order, what the globalists are doing? It all really began, the collapse of it, when China double-crossed the globalists 15 years ago, which led to this. Trump has no other move but this. The globalist order failed. Trump doesn't like it either. But the point is, everybody's saying, oh God, Trump can't do this or he's not going to succeed. The globalists already failed. And now you've got populist movements everywhere removing them or trying to remove them. And so the sand is running out of the hourglass.
This is real populism versus the CIA color revolution, fake populism, where they push, trans, abortion, all this nonsense in these countries. In fact, there was an admission in the very guys that I'm talking about, Walker and Kozak, are the CIA guys. They were in The Guardian in the year 2000, 2001. And they admit that they brought the exact same technology and strategy of a fake humanitarian cover NGO revolution to those countries. That's the exact same thing that you see with like BLM, with probably Act Blue. That's the strategies that they use to try to target anybody in the country that's a stabilizing force. So corporations like Tesla, truth-telling media, all of those have to be destroyed and taken down so that you can have this fake corporate revolution that uses communists at the bottom low level, and they don't know anything. They're the people who have no idea what's going on. They're just useful idiots, but they'll go out and that's why they're inciting people to go after Trump. They're trying to get people to do what only some loon would do. And these people they're going on TikTok, they're going on Twitter, they're going on social media saying, I want to do it, I want to go next.
Well, they're going on The View and saying, we got ready to fight and die to stop Trump.
Yeah, actually.
Trump's killing people, which is the opposite. So we've got to be ready to fight and die.
And if you don't think the CIA would do that, or these entities like this, which are all sort of humanitarian NGO cover groups now.
Phil Mudd of the CIA said the government's going to kill Trump.
Yeah. And there's decades of this. If you look at the Miles Copeland book that I lectured through years ago, A Game of Nations, if you have that quote there, he says in his bio, he says, we love to use the terrorists because the terrorists are the useful idiots. And if they would use terrorists back in the 1950s and 60s, they're going to use terrorists today.
Here, let me see it. I'll show people on the overhead shot. They can't find it in the computer. Here it is, right here. Go ahead and tell me the name of the book again.
Miles Copeland's book, Game of Nations. He was tasked with being the CIA consultant to Syria and then in Egypt and to NASA.
And this is a book he wrote. So again,
bio, yeah.
Yep.
He's like, here's how I do it. Here's what we do in these countries. And the reason that book is so valuable is not just the admissions about false flag terror, setting up revolutions and coups in countries. It's that at the end of the book, there is a discussion on the long-term game plan that the revolutionizing of all these countries, all these foreign nations, is to enforce a faux democracy that leads to technocracy. He actually ends the book by saying technocracy. He says, if you want to understand what the CIA is up to in these countries long-term, he says, read Bertrand Russell and read the CFR, and you'll know.
Exactly. And as a theoretical plan, they've had this forever, like the Intergalactic Communication System, 1960, released decades later, the plan for the internet. It's all there for total control, but they got to undermine everything else and collapse it to make us totally dependent and bring it in. But then the technocracy itself is an incremental kill grid.
Yeah, if you watch the movie Donnie Darko, he reads this story at the very beginning by Graham Greene, and Graham Greene was a British intelligence writer, and he wrote this story called The Destructors. And the story is about creative destruction, and the idea is, the revolutionary philosophy is that in order to create, you must destroy and collapse. And so they really do believe that there's a sort of regenerative power. This is sort of the Ouroboros, the meaning of the snake eating itself. The new society can't come into play or into power without destroying and working to destroy or to negate. That's the communist philosophy of negation. You have to work to tear down. It's part of their culture.
But that is, let me explain this to people, how cults work throughout history. Call them intelligence agencies today. You've got the inner group. You've got a managerial group that only gets part of it. You've got a functionary bureaucratic group. Then you've got implementation. A lot of that's computers now. And this group has the whole plan. This group has part of the plan. These have almost none, and these have just zero.
Yeah.
Or they'll have a false story of what they're doing. Yep. So they say to the intergroup says to the next two rings, we've got to destroy because there's going to be violent collapses in the future. But if we detonate before it happens, that's the Isaac Asimov Foundation series, we've got to destroy civilization because if it grows and grows, we've done the mathematics, it'll destroy itself. But if we are destructive now, we can get ahead of the future in the cycles and then short circuit it. But that's not actually the plan when you get down to it. They want to become gods. They want to have it all set up and ready to kill everybody else right before they make the leap to the God, because Lucifer's told them they have to kill everybody to become the new creation to be given eternal life artificially by Lucifer.
Yeah, I read Foundation back when you mentioned it years ago, and he predicts Google. He predicts large-scale algorithmic tracking through a kind of internet system that can predict, based on future projections, what the masses and the civilizations will do. And in Foundation, they actually have a fake religion, which is the cover for an inner scientific technocratic elite that's the real cult. And the real cult, as Alex said, wants to destroy and recreate as long as they can control the next new creation. The Soviets, the communists, even Che wrote an essay about the new man. And the creation of the new man was the collective man, the new collective Borg man. And to go back to that Soros model of going into these integrated countries to bring them into the EU, that was all a banking model. In fact, Jacques Attali, we covered his book on the Fourth Hour a few months ago. He wrote a book in the 90s called Millennium. And in Millennium, he says that I was tasked with being the European banker in charge of integrating the former Soviet bloc countries. And you might think, well, we don't want them to be communists. And that's true. Communism is a horrible system. It's a nightmare. But what he said was, I'm there with the IMF model of putting all these countries into banker technocratic austerity.
And Obama, when he did that world tour in Latin America first, 3 months before he left office, it's a famous, not famous, I played it, nobody else even paid attention to it, but we need to find that sometime. But it was, he was like in somewhere in South America, but he
said, you don't need air conditioning. You don't need a car. You don't need air conditioning.
That was in Africa. Yeah, he says to a group of law students in Latin America, South America, he says, now listen, we're still capitalists, but we work with communist systems, and then they supply us, and he's basically saying it's a slave state we use, and he was admitting the whole globalist plan.
Yeah, in the modern Bond movies with Daniel Craig, right, you have the one where he is working, both Blofeld and Spectre is working with either the communists or the fascists or the nationalists or the libertarian models, whatever. He says, we don't care. It's a power game. We're not ideologues except for the ideology of power, right? So priests of power, that's the real structure. That's what Bertrand Russell says. That's what Nietzsche says. So yeah, it has nothing to do with ideology.
But the end game is turn people into animals, dumb them down, ritualistically, slowly use us as guinea pigs, and kill us. Because that's what the apex predator does, social Darwinism.
Oh, absolutely. The operating system is Malthusian, social Darwinism. You've made documentaries about that.
What we need to be clear about is you have these cults, and even people in the cults and intelligence agencies think that it's all within their cult. No, you've got then all the other structures whose leadership get together, and it's only when you get a bunch of the groups together, that then you'll see the leaders of hundreds of groups will just be less than 100 people in their grand system that are doing the symphony of the Hegelian dialectic, how it all ties together. And so you need all, that's why they don't like this show and what you do. We're showing people in different rings of different cults how, like Lego pieces or gears, they come together for a larger machine. Instead of being right up close to it, thinking you've got the master plan, you're in the leadership group, this is your plan, you need to understand it's all gears that have been developed, systematically controlled, tuned to then give you a totally different product than what they're being told it is.
Yeah, and key operatives play different roles in the gears to manage within the different gear circle structures there, the concentric circles. That's exactly right. In fact, Quigley says that that's the model 100 years ago that they set up with Milner, Fabian circles. That's the roundtable groups.
And let's go to the Milner group now. I want to play a clip in the news, and Putin said this too, but national television put out a statement from the ministry, which means a statement from Putin. And then the headline was, "How dare him belittle British troops and say that the British Empire created World War I and World War II." It doesn't mean the Austro-Hungarian Empire didn't have issues. It doesn't mean Hitler was good. But Milner said, we're going to put a nationalist in. We're going to build Germany back up after we suck them dry. Then we're going to have another big war with them to keep our system going. He wrote about that. Putin is showing he actually understands. This is not Putin's opinion. That's why people are like, look, Jones is putting out Putin talking points. I told people this 25 years ago. It's in the top World War II books. It's not even hidden. Just nobody reads, Order of the Death Set. Nobody reads the secret British wartime report, The Mind of Adolf Hitler. No one actually reads this stuff. Hitler was totally set up. Half his people were double agents of the British. You had Rudolf Hess, the deputy Fuhrer, had a treaty. They made a deal to take over Europe with the British. Then they were going to put Edward VIII on the throne of the European Union, and then they double-crossed him. And that's why Hitler didn't want to bomb the British, because he believed they were the ultimate Aryans. And that's why Rudolf Hess parachuted into the palace with the treaty. And then they locked him up in the tower for the rest of his life. Here's Putin.
Well, in the last few minutes, there's been a further statement from the Russian authorities accusing Britain of being the main instigator of the global conflict. In a statement, a Kremlin spokesman said that the British leadership sees a threat to its interests in the promotion of dialogue between the United States and Russia on resolving the Ukrainian conflict. London fears that this will lead to the failure of the British strategy of containing Moscow. As we can see, London today, just as it did on the eve of both world wars of the last century, acts as the main instigator of the global conflict. At the same time, the British themselves obviously are again counting on sitting it out on their island. The statement from Moscow goes on to say it is time to expose them and send a clear signal to the treacherous Albion and its elites. You will not succeed.
And it was the British intelligence funded Lenin and sent 100,000 Ashkenazi American Jews that were first generation with a train of gold. Mainline history, folks. Any real book on the Russian Revolution is full of it. And they went over there and they overthrew it and they took it over.
Yeah.
And so this is a fact. And the Russians now know it and reject it. Solzhenitsyn got his big prize for Gulag Archipelago. He wrote a bunch of other books. I read 2 of them about all of this. And the Russians now hate Lenin. You had Putin attacking Lenin in his talk with Tucker Carlson, and you got all these old right wingers. He's really a commie still. Bull. I have Alexander Dugin, his main guy on finishing each other's sentences, because before I knew who Alexander Dugin was, I knew all this because I've read the history books. And not by the Russians. The British brag about this stuff.
Yeah, this is old great game of the British Empire. They, with other nations like France, set up the Middle East, Sykes-Picot. This was a secret deal that they had to carve up what the Ottomans controlled in the Middle East. So that's the British Empire using and sending out their spies to establish Saudi Arabia, to establish Iraq. That's actually a British creation, the country of Iraq.
Lawrence of Arabia.
Exactly, Lawrence of Arabia, all these people. So that's how they managed the empire. And then America took over that empire. And it was the British Empire and the power structure in the UK, including and mainly headed by the Rothschild family, strategizing this and dividing up the Middle East and engineering the 2 world wars. It doesn't mean that it's not good guy, bad guy. It's just power relations and geopolitics. And Quigley says that. He says that the banking elite in the West set up the 2 world wars for global governance. That's the purpose of it. And if they didn't get it with World War I in the League of Nations, that failed. Then they're going to try it again with World War II in the next one. And that's why they had a dual policy that Alex is talking about, the dual appeasement strategy, where publicly Britain was against Hitler, but privately they were saying, go in, we won't oppose you when you go into Poland. They were actually letting him have $2 billion of Czech gold back then, according to Quigley. Schroeder Bank, according to Quigley, I think it's page 1049, 1059.
Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine twice. My grandfather, again, on his mom's side, old Texas family, like in the literally started it all. Working for, long story, were sent here by President Jackson to start the whole deal. That was a covert operation. But the point was, but his dad was German, so they still spoke German like his dad. And the point was, my grandfather literally remembered WBAP, and all the stations in Dallas were pro-Hitler when he was in high school and were playing his speeches and literally telling people, join the Bund. He never did it, but he went to a couple of them. Then, World War II, he was in UT by then. He, volunteered and went actually with his roommate, the first Dallas Cowboys coach, I forget his name, Tom Landry. But the point is that he told me all this stuff when I was a kid. And he was like, no, we were told by the U.S. government Hitler was good, and we as German Americans should go work with Hitler. Of course, he didn't do it. But the point was, that's how intense this was. And then the British just double-crossed him at the next moment.
Yeah, I mean, there is actually a fascinating history to Texas in terms of a lot of Germans who settled Texas, Mexico as well. And Hitler didn't come up with those ideas about eugenics, mass depopulation. Actually, if you read the Kaiser talked about all that stuff way before him. That's why the
Kaiser Wilhelm Institute.
Why it's called the Kaiser Wilhelm Institute. In Mein Kampf, Hitler actually says, I'm just kind of furthering what the Kaiser had in terms of his eugenics strategy. But guess where they got it? They got it from the British Malthusian social Darwinists. And if you want to, there's a quote, a classic quote from Prince Philip that everybody's forgotten, where he actually just says, yeah, I just want to kill everybody.
Well, he told the Audubon Society, and he also told Reuters, I want to come back, reincarnated as a particularly deadly virus to do some good for overpopulation, to kill 80% of people.
Yeah, so it's a British social engineering strategy.
We'll be right back with more and phone calls. Jay Dyer in studio. You're even better in studio, buddy. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope we don't get swatted. I'll get to your calls. Really appreciate you. But, since you're here in town, you say coming back from a funeral?
Yes, we were in Dallas for my wife's, there was a relative who passed away, unfortunately.
And you were, just to show how close to home the enemy attack is, we don't want to say the name, but because your wife's here, but he took the boosters and bye-bye.
Yeah.
How old?
50.
Wow.
And I buried my best friend 2 weeks ago. Now, he didn't take the boosters, but there was some questions about pharmaceuticals, and essentially the doctors, I think many of these doctors are just basically glorified drug dealers that push pharmaceuticals more than anything else. That's
well, they don't push any of the thousands of real drugs that work because the insurance companies get a kickback on all the new drugs.
Yeah.
So whatever they approve now is meant to kill you.
Yeah. I mean, it's large scale. I think the West especially, this, but we are under just every possible level of chemical, cultural, ideological,
covert assault.
It's all subversive. It's hybrid warfare. It's soft, it's soft kill. It's all of that. But it's a strategy and a plan. And people still can't get this to their head. They think it's just organic and, we got to fight the idiot liberals. No, they're not idiot liberals. There's really devious, cunning, high IQ mad scientists. They write it in all the books. I've been, on the fourth hour for 5 years now talking about it. It's all real. So people have to.
And they write books bragging about it.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Salk and his
Salk.
And his adjunct was on PBS like 20 years ago. He played the clip many times. They're like, yeah, there was SV40 in it. Oops, we didn't know it causes cancer. Yeah, it probably killed 100 million people, but there's too many people. And then Salk did an interview and said it before he died. It's like, yeah, they're like proud of it. That's what powerful men do, man. They kill people.
Yep.
But, don't touch them. Then you go to Supermax prison. Just let them kill you. Just let the DAs, let the criminals out and the murderers out. Let them kill us. It's fun. It's all cute. And, it's nice and liberal and trendy. Well, I want to go to some calls. And what else we're going to hit? You got a lot here.
I mean, yeah, we can talk about, culture war. We can talk about, Tucker clips about the church schism in Ukraine, all verified real stuff.
What do you think? Give us your real report card. Because, I'm not here to just defend Trump mindlessly. I am very impressed. He's born again hard. I mean, I just give him just a super A+.
Yeah, everything's going great. I wish that they continue the, hacksaw activities with Doge. I don't want that to be scaled back. I don't want to have any kind of war in regard to Iran. So I think that's one thing.
That's the one big problem.
Back from, yeah. But no, these peace deals, and I think you nailed it when you said that there's a good chance they might try to sabotage this peace deal. That's probably what's going to be coming the next few days, is to make sure that the Ukraine situation continues on, because really, you know, the establishment, the left, the Dems, they've put everything into this whole Ukraine. They will not, you know, back down from the Ukraine scenario.
What did you make of them hitting X so hard yesterday? Now we know it's out of Ukraine.
I think it was a state. It was, you know, my first thought was Vault 7 that has the ability to spoof anything. They can just say that it's coming from Palestinians. Look, no, Palestinians don't have the capabilities to do this kind of a sabotage, you know, hacking, DDoS attack. So
they're saying biggest DDoS attack ever.
Yeah, it would have to be some high level, you know, cybercom. It would have to be CENTCOM, something like that.
Absolutely. Let's go to Jason in New Mexico. Go ahead. Thanks for holding, Jason.
Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Jones. I'll be brief. For decades, the enemy has implemented educated mind control by destroying spiritual awareness. And Michael Savage wrote a book once upon a time called Scorched Earth. In several ways, I see the opposition working overtime to accomplish their mission of scorching the earth by creating and normalizing so much chaos and uncertainty that people will blindly follow their model of mass destruction and traumatic devastation. So I believe that like a Bird Box style of attack is on the horizon, like the movie. I was watching a new Captain America movie, and it has a plot in it where they use devices to enact mind control or loss of self-control. And I feel that we are close, or they are close to activating that technology that they have injected in people alongside with the sleeper cell kill teams, because when you look at it, we already have planes and vehicles crashing all around the world without explanation. My final point is, what's up with Biden wasn't even signing his presidential documents? That should be priority number one, because if we don't get after that, then they are definitely on our tail.
You're making great points. I mean, I agree with you, and I should watch more of the pop culture because they love to tell us what they're going to do in these Marvel comic things, particularly. I mean, how many of these movies is, you know, they've got to, you know, kill a bunch of people to stop a future war. They've got to, you know, Thanos has got to kill everybody to save the universe. You learn he's really a good guy. I mean, what's the new Captain America? Because, I mean, obviously I didn't watch it. I mean, I don't watch it anyways, but like Captain America has nothing to do with Captain America, the Star said. What was the main plot?
Well, the main plot is that the president goes crazy, played by Harrison Ford. And
so there's Trump, yeah.
Basically, but he was manipulated by the guy that they did experiments on. But the corrupt government gave him the lab. He was doing all these experiments and tests, but it actually drove the president crazy so that these nations could turn each other and destroy each other, so that he would expose all the corruption that quote unquote bad Trump or the president did. And it's a really manipulative movie.
It's a good guy that wants to destroy everything to get the bad guys.
Exactly. So that's the mind control aspect, meaning they want us to root for the bad guy in this because they give us the false President Trump or whatever. But like I say, the real issue is what's up with Sleepy Joe Biden not signing these presidential documents, and everybody turns a blind eye to it. So that's how I say we are too under educated mind control, because that's criminal.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal that Biden didn't sign these orders. He didn't know he signed them. The liquid natural gas is an example.
Yeah, well, speaking of the Marvel culture stuff, I just finished the third Esoteric Hollywood book, the third in this series, the trilogy. And
thanks, Jason.
I spent about 80 pages at the beginning deconstructing the propaganda in the Marvel movies and the Christopher Nolan Batman series and all that. So that's fresh on my mind. You're absolutely right. I think they put, like Alex said, some of the truths, especially in the earlier, Avengers stuff. They talked about in-game plans to depopulate. They have false flags. They have all that kind of stuff. And then they steer the series usually into something where you've been roped in, and then it turns into this leftist thing where, anybody sort of like a Trump figure is the real villain the whole time, or he's mind control or some nonsense like this. So yeah, it's absolutely real.
Or Civil War, they go kill the Trump figure.
Yeah.
All right, Felix in California, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to know, why is Soros not in jail? Because he's above the law. Obama's above the law. Bush is above the law. Clintons are above the law. The Bidens are above the law. Pelosi's above the law. Schiff is above the law. So it's like, these guys are not in jail. They're never going to get arrested. They're never going to, they're funding terrorism inside our country. They're hiring DA after DA after DA after DA to destroy our cities. and increase crime and release people into the city limits and so forth. And they're untouchable, man. So and I just want to know what's your take. Is there a path to put George Soros in prison for buying 250 radio stations illegally? It didn't even go to the board. It just got passed immediately. Biden is a criminal. He gave away money.
I know they stole $375 billion out of the EPA and gave it to themselves. Here's what's happening. We're only in day 49. Rome wasn't built in a day. They've got to get control of the agencies. They've got to fire the people. They got to cut the money off. They're doing that. And Trump knows he's got to indict all these people or they're going to keep coming back. So believe me, if Trump is able to, and to get the FBI and his people to do their job, which they're trying to do, but they're not this big, giant, powerful thing you think. I mean, look, the globalists spent, they admitted, $300+ million in court documents 3 months ago in the last years attacking me and suing me. That's what we know. They spent $300 million last year alone to Reuters, MI6, from the Biden administration to attack Musk with PR. The deep state didn't want to kill me because that would make me a martyr. They wanted to kill my name and just take me off the air and create a straw man. So the whole globalist system wasn't powerful enough to get Trump and get me. They're not that powerful. They're only as powerful as us not understanding what they're doing. So for everybody wanting Trump to get everything done right now, this is fundamentally changing the world. He's fundamentally trying to stop the war. He's fundamentally trying to do all this stuff because they understand that it was going to collapse. Just they're doing it out of self-preservation. The globalists were crazy, thought they could manage this. So look, we do need indictments soon, especially the $20 billion that they just put in private bank accounts out of the EPA money. That's cut and dry. And so, yes, Trump, they must start the indictments, but we have a due process, so they got to get grand juries. They got to show it. These are big fish they're going after, but they've got the evidence. They must engage now, and if I don't start seeing some major indictments in about a month, I'll be very concerned. Jay Dyer.
There was, if you remember when Black Lives Matter came out and they were really promoting, violence across the U.S., burning down cities, they were telling you had to put a black, square as your profile picture or you were racist. That was America's first sort of experience of a kind of color revolution in the same model.
It was Maoist.
Yeah, the same model of what the CIA is pushing in all these other countries for this hyper-democracy that we've been seeing for the last 30 years, going back to the 80s. And Soros was involved with working with the CIA under Reagan when they were trying to reconstitute and restructure those Eastern Bloc countries, as he talked about. It's the same strategy. And we thought, well, now Trump's in and this is good. Moves are being made to literally save the country, its own life support, and people are like really hyped up, and that's good, but we have to not think that, oh, well, they're backing down there, we won. A lot of people are thinking, oh, we won, we've done it, we're going after the IRS, we're going to go after the Federal Reserve, we're going to release Epstein, all this stuff, but they're not done. They're going to keep pushing, and they're going to try again with the color revolution model.
And what happened with Bondi and Kosh was very refreshing. They gave him stuff that was mainly already out. When they did it, they said, wait, this is already out. They raided the New York FBI. They fired the people. They grabbed the stuff. Now they're processing it. This is a lot of stuff.
Like you said, it takes time. But again, a lot of people seem to have the attitude of like, well, we've already won. No, we haven't won yet. They're going to keep doing and pushing for.
Yeah, the globalists are launching their main counteroffensive.
There's going to be false flags. That's where I'm going.
I totally agree. I mean, look, they've been saying, I said it before they said it, that Social Security goes down in the next 20 to 90 days.
It's total nonsense. So as if Elon Musk wanted to get into Social Security and take your check. It makes absolutely
and then it crash it to discredit himself.
Exactly. It makes no sense. Just like Russia.
What's your real approximate?
Russia's going to cyber attack it.
Oh, did you see the London Telegraph is saying Russia is behind the immigrants and the open borders?
Right.
Russia's been saying don't do that. Look.
But I thought Trump was a Russian agent. I thought,
I mean, it's openly Soros, the UN, the NGOs, Mayorkas flooding the borders.
Sure.
It's openly the UN migration plan. But no. How Russia turned immigrants into weapons, and these articles say the Russians are running all the open borders. Did you know that, Jay?
Yeah, I did, because every time something happens, the mainstream controlled media turns it against the people that they want to go after or that they want to finger.
And the truth is the Russians have been under 85 years of globalist occupation. They struggled out of it.
But when the false flag happens, it's going to be Iran did it because they want us to, fight against Iran as it's revenge against.
Boy, and Trump's walked into that saying, if I get killed, blow up Iran. He really is asking.
Or they're going to say, oh, Russia did this.
And Trump is asking for the deep state to kill him and blame Iran. That's the dumbest thing he's done.
Or they're going to say Russia's behind this. Anything that happens, they've been saying for 20 years, anything that happens it's Russia, it's Putin doing it. It makes no sense.
Oh, they had the news yesterday saying, oh, it's Russia that attacked X.
Right, but remember, Elon's supposed to also be working for Russia, but then Russia's attacking X. It makes no sense. So, but that's just directed to, as you know, like the 20-30% of people that have no functioning critical thinking skills. So, as long as they can get.
Oh, I have a lot of people. It's happened a bunch. And if he knows in front of security and family, what do they go? They go, F you. It's always a man. F you. You killed those kids. I go, what kids? Sandy Hook. I go, did I kill kids? And they go, yeah, you supported killing them. They don't even know that just Alex Jones killed kids.
Yeah, that's association. So in their mind, there doesn't have to be an actual event where you did something. You're just associated from the mainstream.
Well, it's like Trump says he hates all Mexicans. Never say anything close to it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, though.
No, it's just loose association. The CIA figured out in the Cold War that you could just loosely associate, and people would fall for that and think that, oh, you're with that because I saw an article where your picture was next to a word that said that. It's that low level, but
subliminal.
Yeah.
What's ethereal communications? It's there for a minute but gone. It's like a headline in the search, but that's not the actual article.
Yeah, they talked about in the Cold War, the psychological warfare. People had figured out that a lot of people wouldn't even read articles, but if they saw, socialist, and then they saw next to it, something like a picture of Satan. And I'm not saying socialists are good people, but I'm saying they figured out that it's just a really basic, super basic level association that people will make. That's why they even talked about staging a second coming of Christ. I don't know if you know, Ed Lansdale, this famous CIA guy, said, why don't we just stage a second coming of Christ? They didn't do it, but it was a wild,
And that goes into Blue Beam and all of it. Let's take another call. Great points. Dave in FEMA Region 9, you're on the air worldwide.
Thanks so much, Alex. Condolences across the entire AJ family for the loss of Jamie White. That was unbelievable to hear.
Oh, everybody's cool here. They're all my friends, but he was particularly a cool cat.
Yeah, well, he was dialed in. I mean, he had the receipts, and that's what we all want. That's what we all strive for. Related to that, I want to touch on something. My topic is related to exactly what Jay was talking about most recently. This is all inextricably linked. We are definitely in a 30-front war. And my most recent epiphany was back on 25 May 2020 when we watched Somaliopolis burn. And Jay was touching on it. I think that was the start of the kinetic war against we the people. And as we've found out, and we knew it back then because we were researching Act Blue and how they were tied to Soros, we've funded the destruction, the intentional destruction of our republic 100%. And if you think things aren't related, look at what CCP China is doing with fentanyl poisoning. 100,000 people 4 years in a row. That's the equivalent of 2 airliners crashing in the air, 300 people dying every day for 1,400 days. So we're in the throes of war now. It's kinetic already. So I hope everybody dives into the Word, lean into your Bible, and praise the Lord Jesus Christ. I appreciate what you guys are doing.
That's right. And Trump represents power elites that don't want war and want stability and don't want to kill people. That's not good for business. They're just like, let's say at their worst, old-fashioned gangsters. And in a way, we better hope they get gangster because this is war, people. And I said the left should give up. The top globalists won't give up, but their minions should because they're destroying their own future. And I've tried, but now they're just bringing us into more and more of the arena of physical war, not covert war. And I've looked at all the different trajectories here. The globalists themselves are going to get hung publicly if they keep going.
And Elon said this is basically what's left of Western civilization is this country. You have to support this. We have to not let this fall because if it does, it's not going to be good for anybody. You're not going to have your business. All of these Democrats, it's like when COVID happened, all the leftists, they were actually so doubled down, they were willing to destroy their businesses and their livelihoods just to go along with the narrative.
And that's because most of them knew it was an exercise of their power. They knew the mask was like a Nazi armband. They feel existentially through the system power.
But they will sacrifice themselves and their livelihood and their business, their offspring to go along with the cult, the narrative. So it's basically like people under a mind spell.
And it's a lot of them are different reasons, but a lot of them are just total followers.
Yeah, but you would think that they might even be motivated just by self-interest to choose the options that would allow them to do well, to succeed in business, to continue to have livelihood. I actually think there's kind of a like a death wish for a lot of the left.
They've had their life force turned off.
They want, but they kind of,
and they think that's morally superior.
They're nihilistic, and they actually want to kind of get rid of themselves. Once you go full evil, like you're kind of just going in the direction of getting rid of yourself.
Yeah, and it's because they're scared of death, so they think they're embracing it by celebrating idiocy.
And worshiping death. It's a death cult.
Absolutely. Well, they fear it. It's Stockholm Syndrome. It's spiritual Stockholm. Most people that serve Satan do it out of fear.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They're scared of it. If they get touched by it, instead of going to God, they join it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, as the great Saint Athanasius of Council of Nicaea said, we are not supposed to fear death, right? I mean, this resurrection of Christ is the defeat of death. We're not supposed to fear death. But if you don't have that, then you worship death.
I mean, I literally have dreams where the stuff comes true, and I'm there with angels, and it's it's like it's eternal, and I'm like, and don't worry, it's total completion, and I'm literally like, can I just literally, it's like in a movie. You want to, can I stay here? Like, no, obviously you got people to take care of, right? But don't worry, it's timeless, and you'll be here. I mean, it's just like it's just like it's infinity, but it's 1 second, and it's 1 moment, and it's completion, and it's just like I mean, it's just like You ever had that experience?
I mean, I've had some spiritual experiences and dreams that came true, and St. John says in 1 John, God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of love and sound mind. So we're not dominated by fear. We're supposed to have peace that surpasses understanding. So absolutely.
Yeah, people talk about it as love. It's beyond that. It's absolute completion. I don't know how to describe it. Time, like, oh my God, there's no time. This is forever. And it's like, yeah. I mean, it's like, but there's free will, so you've got to go through the choice.
Yeah.
And then I'm like shown all these destroyed civilizations, all these like contained free will experiments and I was like, I want to look in those. It's like, you sure you want to look in those? And it was just like endless, like, and then it's like these seeds basically, and then they're like great tombstones, but they're like, you go into these different civilizations, different things, and I only went into a few of them. I was just like, oh my God. And I could see the whole process, and it destroyed, and it was basically old men with just sand in their own thing, their own system, and they're just encapsulated in their own free will. They built their own hell. It was like, no, the hell is them cut off from this. That they made this choice. We don't even recommend. You can look at anything you want to look at. And I was like, all this other great stuff and the thing. And I was like, no, I want to see why they did it. It's like, you really want to go see it? And once I looked at it, I was like, okay.
Well, Ecclesiastes, Solomon says, God has set eternity in the hearts of men so that they seek out God as the eternal. What you're talking about sounds like Paul Atreides too, when he sees all the different potentialities of his choices. You remember in Dune?
Well, I've been shown other civilizations, other species. It was only, and it's just too, like, some of it's like energy levels, and it's like, and then like other dimensional things, and then like humanoid things, and then like and then like kind of a warning too, like, you go into that, you can open a connection to that, and then it's like. And then later, it's something else.
Sort of like Alex's version of Dante's Inferno and Purgatio and the heavens. It was like,
yeah, but it wasn't rings. It was like encapsulated, like
worlds.
Huh?
Like worlds, like a lot of.
Yeah, but it was like symbolizes encapsulated like a stone seed that's like a building, and just endless amounts of those. Just like forever. And it was just all the free will things that had been walled off, basically. And I was in this reality, and then there's like those, and you can go look at all those if you want. And some were active, some were dead, and it was just like, you can't even understand it. Like, I've seen stuff in these dreams that like, you think you've seen everything, and then no one's ever seen this stuff. And then I'm like. Then it's like, but don't show anybody this. Don't introduce this. Yeah. And then also, like, Man, it's something else.
Muad'Dib.
Do what?
Muad'Dib.
Yeah, but that's seeing possible futures.
I know. I was just making a joke.
Yeah, and ancestral memory integrating with that to be able to.
Genetic memory.
Yeah, it's crazy. We're out of time. I'm sorry to the callers. Hey, Jamie White, we love you, brother. People want to support him and his family. Give, send, go.